Hey guys, do you miss the early 2000s? Because if you miss the early 2000s and you're feeling a little older right now and you're tired of all the skibbities and farming L's, well then maybe it's time to go back to when things were just hype, when you could just use that phrase and people knew what you meant. When you maybe would whip out your PSP, watch some Soul Eater, play some Death Jr. Yeah, those eras. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, there's still a lot of cool stuff here, but I'm throwing that in there for a little bit of nostalgia. Now, this game really is hype. I think that fits it perfectly, especially because I went back, looked through the footage, and realized that they have a power-up state, like a transformation state that's literally built off of a hype meter. So this game knows what it's going for. It knows its audience. It knows the aesthetic it's trying to go for, and it absolutely nails it. It's just a demo right now. Only played it for 32 minutes because that's all there really was for me to do. But yeah, it really does feel kind of like an upscale PSP game. And I mean that with a lot of love. It kind of reminds me of something like Death Jr. Let's listen to the voice work for a second. But let me pause. First, I say let's listen, let me pause. Look at the character designs. You know already what this is about. You got this like moon in the back that's got its like face or weird things going on. You got this dark aesthetic. Both of these characters are defined by their color, and they're named red and blue, which, okay. And there's also a green and yellow who aren't out yet for us to try. But look at Blue. I mean, she screams early 2000s. A beanie, a skull beanie, blue hair like she's from Life is Strange, a biker jacket, a skull belt, skull knee pads, extremely thick thighs for her build, some booty shorts with the pockets sticking out. I mean, this was like peak, like, oh, this is like an awesome girl in the 2000s. You saw someone like this in high school when you're growing up, you were like, whoa. Like now you're in your 30s, but you'd be like, whoa, like I gotta talk to her, she's the coolest ever, how could I ever approach her? It was that kind of era. To think about it, she kind of reminds me of Matt from Two Best Friends Play, but like a waifu version of him. Maybe that's what they were going for. I shouldn't say now he's just Matt McMuscles because, well, rip Two Best Friends Play. Man, I made myself sad. But you know what, making myself sad, that's millennial humor, right? We make ourselves sad. Like, I'm not going to dwell on that. I hate that kind of stuff. Anyways, let's keep going. So let's listen to the voice work because I think it's really good.
Let's see.
Look at it! It's a very jumpable jump. What are you talking about? Let's go!
Hey, there's a ride that flies right into the castle. Were you really about to jump off just now?
We are! Yes!
What? No! We'll go to the flying ship and see if we can still use it.
You mean that kiddie ride?
It's not a kiddie ride.
Now, I think Blue is a little better in terms of like voice acting work here. Maybe I'm just a little bit biased. She does kind of seem like the front and center character after all. Like, I feel like her design is the one that's probably going to be used in a lot of the marketing, which, again, not surprising based on how she's built. But I like Red a lot too. I think he sounds good. I think they both sound like really professional. For a more indie game, I wouldn't really expect that. Maybe they got somebody that was, really high quality. I don't know voices well enough just by ear, and I didn't check that, which maybe I should later. But point is, having good sound design, like having weapons, having like little grunts that make sense for everything they're doing, sound files that play like, voice lines when you switch in characters in the middle of combat that are different, like all of these things show a level of quality that is really high up there. So while I said this kind of reminds me of a PSP game, I just mean more that era of like, that what was cool, like Death Jr., like something that's a little bit like, edgier in a way, but not like overly so, but just like colorful and fun. The graphics are pretty simple. I mean, if you look around, you can kind of see that in the texture work. I mean, go past me reconfiguring the dodge button just so it was easier for me. Like if you look at it, the textures are pretty simple. It's not like you're getting like 4K quality textures, extra high, like 8GB RAM absorbing pieces of debris floating through the ground. But everything looks like it should. It's in its place. It's simple, but it's fun. It's a video game. It knows what it's trying to be. It's got exactly what it needs to have. Now, I really like the design, like overall of the world and the characters a lot. Like I know I gushed a little bit over Blue, but let's be serious. Instead of just being like, oh, thick thighs, because like I'm not really like that deep down. I do think it's funny to talk about, and I mean, I can appreciate it. But like, let's be honest, they're both kind of generic, and I think that's kind of the point. You know, they're literally called blue and red. Like they're very common tropes. You know, you got the girl who's, you know, she's very calm. She's got, you know, some strength and conviction in her voice, but she sounds kind of like 2B, where she's not really like overly impressed by things. But she has like a little bit like of a dorky side because apparently she likes, you know, kids rides. Like, yeah, you know, it's got a guitar that turns into a sword. Wait a second. This is somebody's high school OC. I'm on to you, game. Yeah, it probably is someone's high school OC actually. But you know what? I like it. It's cool. I mean, yeah, it's everyone's definition of cool from that era, but it works and it's a fun design. So why hate on it? Just because it's a little bit cliche. Red is our male protagonist, and you know, there's another male protagonist. I think he's green, and then another female, which is yellow. Again, you don't have those yet, but Red's the male protagonist we get this time, and I think he's got a good design too. He's cool. He's loud, he's boisterous, he wants to charge in, he laughs at things that are, you know, for kids. He's probably that character that's going to be like, oh, this is what this is what it means to be manly kind of dude. And he's kind of a menace, but I like that. You can see some effort here. I was trying to zoom in and look at these little like magazines because I do things like that when I'm first playing games, because that's just how I am. And then I was looking at the character model just to see the quality of it, because you know, you got to see like, you know, what's on them, what do their faces look like. I think that's important when you're testing something out. Now, Red also has the benefit of having two big fists, which I love. If you don't know that about me, I love punching things in any game where I can, because nothing shows your dominance like being able to punch something in the face and teach it a lesson. And I especially love big power-up, you know, charge fists. Now, Red and Blue both have different combat mechanics. Red can charge up his attacks, and get more damage out of them, whereas Blue has a longer range, seems a little faster in some ways, and probably better. It's probably better for AoE fights. I haven't had a chance to like test it enough because again, 30 minutes of play is more just like you're learning everything. You don't have like reflexes built in, so I'm not going to do any sick combos. What I do like is that Red is a good foil to Blue. Like they thought about that, you know. You have a cool character, Blue. I mean, literally going by their color codes too. The cool character Blue, and then the hot, like energetic character Red. And you know, it means you're gonna have some pretty fun interactions. Artwork is great. Style is great. And you know, the combat is focused on making bigger combos and getting high rankings, which you can see starting to form up here. And then you know, they use words like dope and things like that, which again fits the era. The other thing I like about Red, one final thing there, is that he reminds me of one of the greatest heroes of old, Fighter from Final Fantasy 1. Man, I miss that guy. But anyways, so I like that they play differently. Here I was just kind of seeing, you know, if I could practice blocking and stuff, but these enemies weren't really doing too much of that. I tend to do that with my first few combats where I will deliberately kind of suck because I'm trying to figure out like the limits of things. I'm trying to understand them. I'm going to assume that the other characters that are coming are going to be equally as fun. We don't really have a lot on Green. He's got like one of those jackets that covers his mouth, like the collar goes all the way up, and he's got some army pants. Yellow or maybe orange, I think it's yellow, has two big pigtails, a leopard print top, some tights and combat boots. She's got like a lot of spunk and energy, kind of like a Harley Quinn feel, because she's also wielding like a giant hammer. So I'm sure there's gonna be some pretty fun things, but those are in the devlogs. Anyways, one quick criticism for the game. I don't love the jump animation and the double jump. It's like this little weird wide, like you have this like wide stance when you hop and then you do like a little twirl. But it also kind of reminds me of Jak and Daxter, so maybe it's not a huge deal. It's like I'm staring at the jump animation half the time. It was just one thing that I was like, I didn't like as much. Now, the feel of the game is great. Combat is stylish and cool, as you've probably been seeing. The world, again, simple, but it's fun to move through. The style is good. Movement is fluid. And once you start to get the hang of combat and you get used to like the little combos that you can utilize because you build up this like blue energy bar, which let me move myself for a second so you can see that. There's like a blue energy bar down here. once you build those up, you can use certain skills which consume a certain amount, which you can see the flow attacks over there. And then when you use those, it consumes that meter. And so you're building that as you're fighting, as you're blocking, as you're dodging. And then you also can build a meter to transform. Very, very standard affair stuff, but you don't have to completely change a game to make it good. Like, why would you do that? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Chase is a good feature because not only does it make you feel good as you're moving through the area, but it's also something you use in combat to get close to enemies. Here I am just testing to see like what would happen and seeing the bumping in the 90s little shop in the back there, which again, fitting with the times. But yeah, so I think it's pretty cool. The game works well. Blocking is actually useful, even though I didn't find it to be so at first. There is a boss at the end of the demo where I definitely lost the first time because I was like not used to actually having to block and dodge as much because most of the other encounters were pretty easy. So, you know, you will have to adapt a bit, but that's not a bad thing. Like, bosses should be a little harder. They should be like a different part of the game. So I'm not upset about that. I think everything else was really good. And I think losing to a boss is important. Like, I should lose, especially when I'm just messing around and I'm just trying to figure out like how everything works, testing things out. Like, I'm not really set in yet. So yeah. Enemy design is also pretty decent. If you looked around, like, they have pretty simple looks. Here I am just looking at the wall run. They have pretty simple looks. There's like hidden things around. But, you know, you get like a very punk looking design for most of the monsters you're fighting. It's not like great, but it fits the theme. It's not just some like generic goblin or something, at least, because that would be, you know, that would probably take you out a bit. And it's not like some overly realistic monster that like looks like it came out of Dead Space, which some games like this try to put in. I think they actually fit thematically, so that's cool. I'm sure they'll have more stuff like that. It's kind of hard to tell what the main story is, but the characters do talk like they're naming enemies they encounter, so, you know, maybe it's some galactic takeover or something. I don't know. We'll find out. So yeah, I think when you start like really getting more into the stage, you start getting into more fast-paced movements, and you start to kind of almost feel like you're in a Sonic game. Not like in a bad way, because, you know, sometimes being in a Sonic game is an awful experience, just ask Sonic. But, you know, you're moving quickly, you're dashing along walls, you're dodging traps, you're like doing that, and then you get into like a nice combat mode. I think it's got like a good flow to it generally, and it's fun to watch. I mean, very clean movement. And again, like, if you really look, it's like, oh, those bats are just like probably painted on. I mean, well, yeah, obviously they're painted on, but like, you know, there's no actual like arcs there, right? That's just a drawn on texture, but it looks fine. And like, you're blasting through the zone pretty quickly. So, you know, are you really going to be worried about that? No, just a backdrop for good fights. So yeah, you get a lot of things to break up the pace as you go through this too. You learn you have these ultimate modes, which look really cool. Like, I mean, like your head's on fire, you get like more floating swords, and yeah, this is very anime, and very cool. And I really like Blue's moveset. I actually felt like Red's is really strong too. The charge attacks he has, the attacks he has, like, they're very useful. They do share a health bar, but I do see where you'd want to use both of them because you will get benefits from different attacks. The only thing is, I think they could incentivize you swapping a bit more. Maybe they have ways to do that, but it's hard to say. I like that they have UI elements. Like up here, you can see the, I mean, obviously they have UI elements, but well thought out UI elements. Like, even the enemies get like a little avatar as you attack them and highlight them. That's pretty cool. They didn't have to do that detail. These guys are thinking things through. So W for the devs to use language that wouldn't be probably used in this world. Now, this isn't a game where you're going to dodge and get like a ton of iframes and get to go ham on the enemy, but you will get enough openings. At least that's what it seems like. So I think it's got like a good sense of action, and you got to actually pay attention to what you're doing. One thing I didn't like is how easy it was to whiff hits on certain enemies, or on the boss itself, because some things are just very ground targeted, which means some attacks just feel superior because they have good tracking, whereas others just kind of feel like, oh, I shot it off and it just missed. Or if the boss is very mobile, you know, you can't really use that attack that has even like a little bit of wind up, because then you're just going to waste energy on it. But you know what? If you learn the boss fight enough, I'm sure that becomes less of an issue. I like how these fights utilize some traps in the area where you can push enemies into them and see them get hurt by it. But they aren't, you know, like the biggest concern. It's just nice to have something different to break up the pace. I think that's a good way to handle level design. Also, it's cool to have attacks like that, by the way. You know, that was the one that costs a lot, of energy, but it's cool to have. I tried it on the final boss, and I think I just missed every time I, you know, attempted to do it. But yeah, so there's that. Something else I really enjoyed about this is they had other things to break up the pace. Now, for example, if we look at, let's go a little further ahead. Oh, they have little secrets. Now, obviously this wasn't part of the game yet. It says, you know, only funded games beyond this point. But I found this when I was running, because I was running alongside of a wall and I saw this little glowy thing in the corner and I was like, wait a second, what exactly is that? That's something that looks important. And so, you know, I ran back over, found a way in, and found out, oh, I can't really do anything with this, but hey, there's going to be secrets, so there's going to be reasons to explore. Then they also have little vehicle sections. So they have this little, this bumper car, which, you know, was kind of hilarious to me. It definitely makes me think of, you know, again, it makes me think of the era. Very Scott Pilgrim feeling, like arcade world type of thing going on. Now, is it the most powerful thing or easiest thing to control? No, but it's not bad, and it was fun, and I definitely enjoyed using it. So I hope they have a lot of sections like this where it's just kind of fun, kind of cool. So yeah, good job with that. Now let's go to the boss so you guys can take a look at that, because again, this demo wasn't the longest. There are unblockable attacks that glow blue. I'm not going to like highlight on that too much. But we get to the end boss here. We get a little cutscene. I'll let it play out so you can see.
I always wanted to ride one of these.
Yeah, me too.
Wow, really?
Of course not.
Oh.
That thing's for kids.
No, it's not.
Wait, you actually want to ride the kiddie ship?
No.
Definitely like the animation there. It's funny.
Bro. Man, you're being a pain in the ass. Hey, did you hear that?
Yeah, right. Change the subject.
I'm serious, dude. Something's coming.
No! Shit! All right. What do we call this one?
Valkyrie.
Oh, that sounds dumb.
I don't want to hear that from Mr. Flying Old Man. Now focus.
So, good intros. I do like the way they do cutscenes where they keep the, you know, their 3D, not like super high fidelity, but they keep the 3D world in the backdrop and they just have their drawings over it. I think that's kind of cool. It gives it a certain amount of charm. It feels appropriate for, you know, what is clearly going to be like an indie game. But it works, and it works well, so I'm happy with it. Now, this first time, I really did a bad job. I mean, I was just getting blasted and not really like... I wasn't really focused on blocking. I was just trying to go in and do attacks and build up meter. Because, you know, I was just kind of spammy. I was trying to dodge here and there, but I was learning, okay, I gotta move a little bit more. It's not a single dodge, and then I'm good like some other games. And since you move forward with attacks, you know, just sitting there and trying to keep attacking can get tough, because like you saw there, I attacked forward into the beam. So sometimes, and at least what I found for this boss fight, was that it was better to just focus on dodging some attacks and then, like, you know, make sure I have a big opening or only use certain moves when that opening's present. Because again, moving into an attack kind of sucks. I wish you could have a little bit better spacing for that. It did feel a little bit off. Like, I was like, oh, I mean, I know what I'm trying to do here, and some other games would let me do it, but it wasn't anything that really upset me. This boss fight was one, though, where obviously quick attacks were very important. Now, I don't know if I actually took a lot of damage for that. Let's see. I kind of want to watch the health meter to see if blocking is perfect there. Yeah, so blocking literally just did no damage. So I could in theory have done that a lot more, and I probably should have, and it builds up meter, so it's not like it's a bad idea. Again, this isn't gameplay you should take examples from right now, especially because, you know, it's a demo, so things are likely to change. But you can see, like, there's a lot of attacks that I'm missing that just feel, you know, like maybe I shouldn't have missed it, or they feel like a little bit off to me. But it's not the end of the world. The boss as a whole is not like it's super complicated. I do end up dying to this one, I'm pretty sure. And then I come back and I kill it, you know, like most stories. Yeah, I came back and then I did it. I still got hit a good amount, but I was getting the hang of things a bit more, testing, experimenting. Like, look there, I tried to do my ultimate move and just got interrupted out of it. That's what I mean when I say, like, you know, some of the longer charging things, just, you don't really want to use them. Typical of action games, you might get like a big opening where you can, but you got to be careful. And even with bosses, again, I'm in my ultimate form and it's like, I'm having to like waste a lot of it. It doesn't feel the best because, like, you know, the move takes you all over the place. But that's nitpicking, and I don't really want to nitpick something that was actually a really enjoyable experience. You beat the boss and you get like a ranking, because I had to die once, which you can see right there. And then that's it. So what do I think overall? I think this game is awesome. Like, I really think it's going to be a great time. I'm excited for it because it knows what it is. It's a video game. I mean, that shouldn't be such a surprise, but I think a lot of us understand how frustrating it is when, like, there's a lot of games where it's like I'm just walking and doing nothing, or it's not like about the fun time, or it doesn't have like a good theme. Well, this one really is something I think that will be worth your time. Especially if you love the setting. Like, I know I really like the 2000s stuff. I loved Soul Eater. Like, there's a lot of things here that, you know, give you that sort of nostalgic sense, and I think they're probably still cool. For an indie game, I really recommend you check it out. Again, I don't know when it's going to be out. It just said it's coming soon, but GenoKids is awesome. I saw it in one of the trailer things that was out. I'm going to be doing a few demos, but I thought I'd check them out and share them for people who maybe, you know, saw it but didn't try it. They want to know if it's any good, or just to get more its name out there more. I'm not a big channel, but, you know, hey, like, send this to your friends, get people to talk about it, or just tell them about it yourself. You don't need to link to my video. Even though I would like you to. And I'll say it just because, I mean, I think you should. Please like and subscribe. I don't really know exactly what I'm doing. Like, I mean, I know what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to make videos for fun. But I would like to see, you know, if people are interested in it. I'd like my words to go somewhere. And, you know, I want to keep doing videos. Like, I think it's fun to just go through things, give them an honest chance, give them an actual opinion, and not just be like, oh, yeah, I was paid to do this, or just be like, oh, this sucks for no real reason. Like, I think this one's good. There's some demos coming out that I think weren't quite as nice, and some that were. I'll be talking about those later, but for now, that's everything. Thanks, guys.